Hello, welcome back to Steam on the Moor, episode 18. So today we're going to have a look back at what we told you in episode 8, and we're going to show you how to drive a steam locomotive. So you might recall in episode 8 you saw us actually prep a locomotive in the morning. That was Sir George Newnes. You saw it being brought out the shed, oiled up, all the disposal, the fire being got ready, right up to the point where the locomotive was ready to go. So here on the footplate of Lynn, all the driver's controls are over here on the right hand side. So we're going to look at the reverser to start with. So this little handle here, when I take the catch out, winds all the way forward. Now it often gets referred to that it's like the gearbox of the engine. It kind of acts a bit like that. Effectively we're starting away in maximum effort. We're letting steam in for 70% of the time when it's marked 70. Steam's doing all that work. They are double acting, so the piston gets pushed in both directions. As we get going, we get momentum on our side. You'll see that I can move this reverser up, which lets less steam in, which basically means it's doing more work. It's expanding. That expansive quality of the steam is very, very important. From a brake point of view, on a locomotive like this, we have a handbrake, which is on the fireman's side. We have a steam brake over here for when the locomotive is actually in steam, just on the locomotive. So it's just on a ratchet over here that goes on and off, which I can use. And then of course we have to be able to control the brakes on the train, which is done through a vacuum system. When I turn on the ejector here, you can see the gauge up behind creating a vacuum through the carriages. And we have an application handle down here, which lets air back into the system. So we're going to put the reverser into forward gear. Make sure we've got the vacuum off on the train. Always have a check around the locomotive, make sure that there's nobody around. So an important part of the day as well is that the fireman is checking the token there to make sure we have our permission to be on the single line. The fireman always keeps a good lookout down his side of the locomotive and the train. He always has to check back, make sure that we've got permission from the guard to leave, that the doors are shut, it's safe to go. Important of all, a little toot on the whistle. And once we let the brake off, nice and gently on the regulator. And it soon moves away nice and easily. I'm going to shut the drain cocks over here once I know that the moisture is out of the cylinders. Close those up. I also have a nice gauge up here to tell me how much steam is actually getting into the cylinders. And as we get going, I can move the reverser up, so I'm making better use of the steam, using less water, less fuel. I can adjust the regulator depending on the load, gradient, depending where the pressure is. And of course, you're always keeping a good lookout for signals, people on the line side, etc.
The dummy is on.
Okay. So as we approach Woody Bay, you'll notice that the gradient eases off immediately, and we have signals on the way in. You rely heavily on the fireman here to tell you what position the signals are in. Now today, as we're filming, we are going into the down platform, hence we have the small calling on signal rather than the main arm. But it still shows our route is clear and safe into the platform. So there's an awful lot of other things that we haven't mentioned. We have to make sure that the water tanks here are kept full up all the time. We check our coal level each time we come in. We've got lamps to run around. And of course we've got the ever important thing of talking to the public, the people that actually come in. Obviously people are very interested in the locomotive, but we have to make sure that we do that around our duties, but it is an important part of the role. And obviously we just have to make sure that we're looking after the locomotive at all times. A good example of a slightly tricky move for a steam locomotive driver is putting the engine on the train, something that we do every day. It's a good example of teamwork as well, because the fireman will be looking out down his side, checking for people hanging on to doors, standing on footboards, looking for disabled ramps down, etc. So you'll see that the driver stops short, and then he actually moves onto the coaches under control to make sure that he gets a slow speed connection between the buffers. Go. So once the locomotive is secure and safe and it can't move, the fireman lets the driver know where he's going. He goes in between the engine and the carriage to couple the engine up and also to put the brake pipe that controls the brakes. So there you have a brief overview of what it's like to run a steam locomotive on the Lynton and Barnstaple Railway. Obviously there's a lot of things we haven't covered, but hopefully it gives you a good taste of what's involved. We're always looking for volunteers if people would like to volunteer on the footplate and have a go on one of these magnificent steam locomotives making a noise behind me. There's nothing more for us to do than to get washed up and have a cup of tea. But remember, if you like these videos, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Cheerio!